To understand about the microwave lab, first we need to familiarize with the components used in our microwave laboratory. So we will see it one by one. So first one is a klystron power supply. Klystron power supply is used to supply a variable power to the klystron oscillator. Klystron oscillator is the one which is going to either generate or amplify the microwave signals. Okay, so here we can see that there is a LED display, okay, which is going to display either the beam voltage, beam current or the reflector voltage. So based on which knob we are putting this particular knob, this LED is going to indicate that value. So when we are putting this particular knob at say beam voltage, we can adjust in this switch the beam voltage, and the range for the beam voltage is from usually from 240 to 415 volts. And when we are putting this particular knob in the reflector voltage, you can go on varying this particular knob of reflector voltage. Okay, so based on which knob we are putting it, we can adjust, and the range of this particular reflector voltage is usually from 0 to 240 volt. And there is a knob here which is going to adjust the modulation factor. CW indicates the continuous wave, AM amplitude modulation, FM frequency modulation. This indicates the external modulation. Okay, and this is understandable from the reading for adjusting the AM and FM modulation, amplitude and frequency. This is for adjusting the AM amplitude frequency, and this knob is for adjusting FM amplitude and frequency. So this from this klystron power supply only we are going to supply a variable power to our klystron oscillator for the generation of microwaves. Now next is a gun power supply. So based on this gun power supply, we are going to supply the power to a gun diode or our pin diode, which is going to produce microwaves. So in this gun power supply, after switching on the supply, we can be either voltage mode or current mode. So it will display the corresponding the voltage or the current. And this first knob is for the gun diode, and the lower two knobs are for the pin diodes. So first one is the gun adjusting that of the gun voltage. So if it is in voltage mode, it indicates the voltage, and the lower toe is for the pin diode, that is a modulation frequency. This knob is a modulation frequency for the pin diode, and this knob is for the modulation amplitude of the pin diode. And you can see there are two cables for the gun supply and for the pin supply. So from using this cable, we are going to supply this gun supply to the gun diode, and from this pin supply we are going to supply the power to the pin diode. Now next is about the pin diode or the pin modulator. So you can see this particular section indicates our point where our diode is placed. From here we have to attach the cable, and this point is the heat sink of the diode. So as you can see, this is the point where we have to attach the cable, that is we have to supply the power to our gun diode, and here a diode is placed. So when this gun diode it is having oscillation, it is going to have exert a large amount of heat energy to the device. So obviously there should be a heat sink. Okay, and to this point we have to attach the cable. So this figure here shows the heat sink for the gun oscillator. This part indicate the heat sink, and when we are setting this in the microwave bench, always a fan is placed near the heat sink, and this fan is put on in order to cool the heating effect. We are having the pin modulator. Okay, so the pin modulator, so here we are having the pin diode. We have already seen that the gun supply we are using to supply power for both the gun diode as well as the pin diode. So here we are having the placement of pin diode, and here we have to attach the cable for providing the supply. So this has to be placed also in a microwave bench. Now next device is an isolator. Isolator is a two-port device. We are having one port here and one port at the back side. So you can call, say, this is the input port and this is the output port. It has to travel. The wave has to travel only in one direction. Suppose when we are having, say, a signal from here, this first port, it has to travel from first port to second port. Okay, a reflection cannot happen backwards from the output port, say from the second port to the input port, because a ferrite material is placed inside, which provides a 45-degree shift. Okay, so the output is not being reflected back to input. Output is being isolated from the input. This isolator device is always placed in the microwave bench. So again, this is a figure indicating the isolator. It's a unidirectional, only it can travel from one direction to another. Waves cannot get reflected, and when this is placed in a microwave test bench, the output is isolated from the input. Now again, next component, microwave frequency meter. Okay, so this frequency meter will be inserted in a microwave bench. Okay, so this frequency meter will indicate when. Our next component is the microwave frequency meter. Now this frequency meter is inserted in the microwave bench. Now we have to insert this in the bench, and when we get a deflection in the VSWR meter, at that point we can make a reading on this frequency meter. Frequency meter, the name indicates that we should be able to read the frequency of the signal at that time. So when we are going to get a deflection, okay, in the VSWR meter, that time we should be able to read the frequency. So you can see in this frequency meter, there is a top part. This part is actually, you can turn it around. Okay, you can move this in a clockwise direction or in an anti-clockwise direction. Now when you move it in clockwise direction, you can see these two lines will be pushed vertically upwards. Similarly, when you rotate this top part in anti-clockwise direction, these two vertical lines will be pushed in the downwards direction. So these two lines, you can see black lines, it will be vertically moving either upwards or downwards when we rotate the top part. Okay, when we rotate the top part in clockwise, these two will be pushed upwards. We always have to take the reading in between these two lines. So based on the division given, okay, we have to read. Suppose it is given, say, 10.5. This reading is 10.5 gigahertz, and this reading is taken in between these two lines. So when we get a deflection in the VSWR meter, that time point where this will be inserted in the microwave bench, and from this frequency meter we will be able to read the frequency. Now in some experiment we will come across the slotted section. Okay, so this is a rectangular waveguide. A slot is made here exactly in the center portion of the waveguide. Okay, we have already studied what is probe coupling in cavity resonator. So here also we are actually doing the probe coupling, and a slot is cut exactly in the center point of the waveguide, because we know that the dominant mode for TE10, the electric field will be maximum in the center. Okay, the electric field being maximum in the center, at that point only we are doing this particular probe. We are placing the probe coupling. Okay. So from the previous figure, I have taken this part to show that this is a probe wire. Okay, this is a probe wire. This only we are inserting in the waveguide. This particular wire is being coupled to the waveguide slot. The slot made at the center where the electric field is maximum. Okay, so this top part we have removed and shown that this is nothing but a probe which is to be inserted into the slot. So the next figure, again the probe is inserted into the slot which is made in the middle of the waveguide, and as you can see, from this particular point we have to attach the cable to the VSWR meter. So we will, by turning this particular knob, this black knob, we will be able to move along the waveguide and find where the deflections are occurring in the VSWR meter. V max, V minimum, etc. So we are inserting a probe here in the center position of the waveguide. The slot is made exactly in the center, and from here we have to connect it to the VSWR meter, and by using this knob we can move along the waveguide and check for the deflections. Now again, in some cases we may be requiring to measure the power directly. So this is actually a detector mount. So we connect it to the end of the microwave bench, and from this you can attach a cable directly to the VSWR meter. Again, there is a 50 ohm matched load in the laboratory. So the matched load, we use it to terminate the waveguide when we do not want any type of reflections. Okay, this is completely a matched load or a matched section is placed inside the waveguide. So we terminate the waveguide with this matched load to avoid any further reflection. Now next component is a 3 dB directional coupler. Okay, so this is having, the directional coupler is having 4 ports. As you can see, this is the first port, second port, third port and fourth port. Okay, so here we are having a patch which is indicating that it is a matched termination. So how we are going to place this directional coupler is important for understanding its nomenclature. So if we are placing the 3 dB directional coupler as such, okay, so this first port is the input port which is shown here. This is the input port. So from this, power is going straight away to this port. So we can say this is the input port, this is our throw port, and this is the coupled port. Why? Because power is also getting coupled equally to this port. Okay, and this port is the isolated port. Now our matched here is the isolated port. So if you are placing the coupler in this manner, this is the input port, this is the throw port, this is the coupled port, and this is the isolated port. So there are many parameters in directional coupler. If we want to find out the coupled factor, the coupling ratio, it is between the powers of this first port and the coupled port. Okay, if we have to find the insertion factor, the power has to be considered between this input port and the throw port. So this indicates the insertion factor, this part indicates the coupled factor, and isolation factor will be given by this input power and the power from this isolated port. So the powers from this two we have to consider for the isolation factor. Again, if we are going to place the 3 dB directional coupler in such manner, again the nomenclature is going to change. Okay, so how can we read this particular port? This is the first input port. Now our throughput becomes this particular port. Okay, and our coupled port becomes our matched part, matched section. So this becomes our coupled port, and this port is our isolated port. Okay, so now the nomenclature has changed. Input port, this one coupled port, this one throw port, and this one is the isolated port. Now the coupling factor is in between the power of this input port and here coupled port, and the insertion factor ratio between the power of this input and this throw port. Okay, again coming to the device circulator. Circulator is a unidirectional device. That is, power flow is going to occur only in one direction. It is a 3-port device. We will be having one port here, another port here, and another port downwards. So if we are having a input signal, it can travel, the power will travel say from port 1 to port 2, from port 2 to port 3, and from port 3 to port 1. Okay, it can travel only in one direction. It cannot travel in the reverse direction. So again, this is a figure indicating the circulator. So if a circulator is placed, we have to find the power as such. For example, if you are placing a matched load, say at matched portion at the third, okay, if you are keeping it close, the power, input power will be from this port, first port, and the output power from the second port. Always the power flow for this 3-port device will be unidirectional. It cannot occur in the other direction. Now, E-plane T. In case of E-plane T, as seen, there are 3 ports. Now what is important here is this side arm port will be giving the difference of the signals from the other 2 ports. If this is a port 1, port 2 and port 3, this side arm is called as the difference arm because it is going to give the difference of the signals between port 1 and port 2. Okay, so that is what is E-plane T. Here, E-plane, the name indicates the side axis, the electric field is parallel to the electric field of the main waveguide. This is also called as a difference arm since it is giving the difference of the signals from port 1 and port 2. Now, coming to that of the H-plane T. In H-plane T, as the name indicates, the side arm, the magnetic field is only parallel to the magnetic field of the main arm. The electric field is shunting and this arm is the additive of the signals of port 1 and port 2. So if this is port 1, this is port 2 and this is port 3. The port 3 is the additive port. It is going to give the summation of the input powers at the port 1 and port 2. Next is the magic T. Magic T is a combination of E-plane T and H-plane T. If you are having 4 ports, this particular port is going to give the addition of the signals of the power values from this first particular port and this particular port. So if you are providing some powers to this port and this port, say first port and second port, at this particular port we get the addition and at this particular port we get the subtraction of the powers from this particular port 1 and port 2. So that is why the name magic is a combination of E-plane T and H-plane T. At one port addition operation is performed and at another port we have this port addition operation and at this port we are performing the subtractive operation.